Right now on the National Weather Desk, severe storms cause flash flooding across the south, where the risk of dangerous weather is today. Many Mainers face another day without power as the state recovers from a major ice storm.
Down here on the coast, it turned to ice, and that's when everything goes wrong.
We'll take a closer look at the dangers that come with severe storms.
It's just such a wide variety of hazards.
New information about the upcoming hurricane season.
Hurricane activity may be higher than normal in late summer and early fall.
How next month's eclipse could impact the weather.
You will start to experience a drop in temperature, and it will be noticeable.
And did Phil get it right? A look back at the Groundhog's forecast compared to what really happened.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Mara Pena. Severe storms pounded the south on Monday and more dangerous weather could be on the way today. The powerful storms brought heavy rain to Caldwell Parish in northern Louisiana. Flash flooding quickly filled the streets, making it very difficult to drive. Remember, 6 inches of water is enough to carry a person away and 1 foot can float an entire vehicle. So turn around, don't drown. The same storm system also brought pounding rain to Mississippi. This is I-20 near the town of Madison, and as you can see, visibility was very poor. There was also a tornado warning as circulation developed near the Mississippi River. Thankfully, there are no reports of any damage. And the chance of more storms continues today. There is a slight risk for severe storms along the central Gulf Coast, including southern Mississippi and the Florida Panhandle. There's also a slight risk in the Great Lakes region, particularly southern Michigan, as well as parts of Indiana and Ohio. Isolated thunderstorms there are probable later on this afternoon. In the Northern Plains, winter storm alerts will continue through much of today as a storm brings the region the most snow it's seen all year. 8 inches fell in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, with another 1 to 3 inches possible this morning. The morning commute is expected to be slippery. And in Duluth, the heavy snowfall should wrap up early this morning, but then warm air moves in, transitioning the precipitation to freezing rain and ice. Up to 1/3 of an inch of ice could form. And to the west we go. In Fargo, North Dakota, snow will linger throughout most of the day. Blowing winds will make it difficult to keep the roads fully clear. And here's a look at Red Wing, Minnesota this morning, about an hour from Minneapolis. It appears a light snow is still falling. Today's high should be about 36 degrees. More than 10,000 homes and businesses are still without power in Maine this morning, 3 days after an ice storm slammed the state. For those still in the dark, the wait continues as crews continue their hard and hazardous work. In places like Harpswell, with just a single access road to the community, progress is sure but slow. Our team coverage starts with Owen Kingsley, who reports a neighborhood south of Portland in need of poles, wires, and transformers.
The lights are back on for more than half of the people who lost power this weekend.
We knew that this ice storm had potential to become significant.
CMP still hopes to restore power to a large majority of their customers by the end of the day Tuesday. However, others may have to wait a little longer.
I couldn't believe the destruction.
Carol Benedict says a large tree fell on Brentwood Road around 8 o'clock Saturday night. It took out multiple utility poles, transformers, and heaps of wires with it. Down lines and damage to vehicles are trapping some people in their driveways.
Spring comes and look what happens, but Mother Nature.
Navigating the storm's immediate aftermath was an extreme challenge for first responders. Cape Elizabeth firefighters responded to about 60 storm-related calls.
For wires down, trees down, and at one point we had the majority of our main roads in town were closed and impassable.
Chief Young also says they've responded to a handful of carbon monoxide alarms for people using generators.
CMP crews kept busy on the mid-coast. These crews were working on lines leading into Harpswell.
The street I live on, there was limbs that were hanging off the wires. One house in my neighborhood did get some damage with a tree.
It was windy and not a whole lot of snow at once, but it just stacked up. And, you know, as you know, down here on the coast, it turned to ice. And that's when everything goes wrong.
Many homes are now running off generators, and with several gas stations closed from power outages, those that were open had long lines. This station even ran out of fuel Sunday. When the power went out, even the main roads were impassable from all the downed trees. Harpswell firefighters were the ones to cut tree limbs and clear the road.
So our goal was simply to cut a single lane. We would only cut what we could just so that we could pass emergency vehicles. We used the plow trucks after we cut the debris to push it off the road.
Families without power are hoping it comes back on soon.
The weekend weather reminded folks in Maine of another ice storm, one that happened more than 26 years ago. But were the two events similar? Meteorologist Emily Sansom compares the two storms.
Now, that ice storm in 1998 is one a lot of Mainers remember. It was one, if not the worst ice storm to hit the state. It lasted much longer than this weekend storm, just about 5 days straight from January 5th to January 9th in 1998. The main event for northern New Englanders started on the night of the 7th. Bridgeton to Lewiston to Augusta and to Waterville were hit the hardest. By January 10th, between 1 to 3 inches of ice accumulated on poles, wires, and branches in southern Maine, and dealt a much bigger hit in terms of power outages. 365,000 customers were in the dark and cold at one point. Some people were without power for months. The 98 storm also caused billions of dollars in damages across the northern New York and northern New England states.
Now, there are many dangers that come with severe weather. Iowa meteorologist Garrett Hyde looks at some of the dangers and ways you can protect yourself.
Overall, the latest weather-related fatalities across the United States from NOAA has heat as one of the leading causes in 2022. But of course, when you span that out over the past 10 to 30 years, flooding has consistently been one of the top killers for severe weather-related fatalities. But a positive trend is both tornado and lightning-related fatalities have been on the decline here in recent years. Overall, though, the vast majority of lightning-related fatalities occur when people are outdoors around bodies of water and, of course, trees. But the easiest and the best way to stay safe around thunderstorms is simply, if you can hear thunder, make sure you're going indoors and seek shelter, avoiding windows or any external walls. But if you are caught outdoors, be sure to stay away from any tall objects such as trees as much as possible. But lastly, continue to monitor for weather updates as things do continue on. But on that note, do make sure you have ways to get those updates from multiple sources, like right here on TV, NOAA Weather Radio, online, or social media. But do make sure those updates are coming from reliable sources that, of course, that you trust.
We are currently in an El Nino weather pattern, but that's expected to change as we approach the summer months. Meteorologist Lexi Horvath looks at what that could mean for this year's hurricane season.
The Climate Prediction Center has issued a La Nina watch. This is what we've been dealing with. On this sea surface temperature map, we are still seeing warm sea surface temperatures, but cooling is expected. A gradual transition to cooler sea surface temperatures could take place by late summer and early fall. This is called a La Nina, different from an El Nino. As you can see, this occurs when colder water off the coast of Central and South America is pushed towards the west. So for now, while we wait to see how these conditions play out, if the conditions are present, hurricane activity may be higher than normal in late summer and early fall, or peak of the hurricane season.
Now, a fire on a Carnival cruise ship near the Bahamas is now out. The Carnival Freedom ship reported the fire on Saturday. Witnesses reported that the ship may have been struck by lightning. That has not been confirmed, and the cause is still being investigated. The captain turned the ship towards an area with heavy rain to help put out the flames. There were no reports of injuries, and all areas of the ship are now fully functioning. And researchers have discovered a prehistoric amphibian believed to have lived over 270 million years ago. And they've named it after an iconic celebrity. This is Kermitops gratis. Paleontologists at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History named it after the Muppet icon, Kermit, for its big oval eye sockets and cartoonish grin. It predates the dinosaurs, and researchers believe it roamed portions of Texas over 270 million years ago. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how the upcoming April 8th eclipse could impact the weather. And today marks 1 week of spring. We'll check in and see how accurate Punxsutawney Phil was when he predicted an earlier start to the season. And time now for a short break, but first, let's take a flight over Burt's Lake in Michigan.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a big range in temperatures on the way today. Look at this. Some areas will be in the upper 50s to near 60 where we're brightest. But most of the area in the Northeast will be in the 40s. Even some 30s are possible in northern New England. There's a little ocean storm trying to back in on us with some clouds, potentially a little bit of drizzle as well. That steady rain you see in western New York, most of that action gets into the Northeast on Wednesday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Looks like some clouds for your Tuesday. We'll continue to see that. Filtered sunshine may actually peek through here and there, but we're talking about a chance for some rainfall as we head into Wednesday, and rain may even become even more likely going into Thursday. Temperatures with the clouds around, we may only reach the low 50s for most areas, and the rainfall in the vicinity on Wednesday may also keep us stuck likely in the 50s. We'll warm up a bit going into Thursday and Friday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. As that frontal system continues to move through the southeast, we do still have a level 1 out of 5 risk on our severe weather scale. So keep in mind, everyone in the southeast, that includes Tennessee, parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and even parts of the panhandle of Florida are likely to see some rumbles of thunder. Highs today warm in Florida, cool for everyone else that has already seen that front move through. And then throughout the day, it'll make its way to the southeast.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Trails are closed at the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore in Michigan. The reason? An infestation of the invasive hemlock woolly. Meteorologist Trevor Robideau tells us why there's a concern over this insect and why it's on the rise in Michigan.
Hemlock woolly adelgid is a small aphid-like insect that uses its long siphoning mouth parts to extract sap from hemlock trees. Now, HWA feeding weakens needles and shoots and branches, and over time, tree growth slows, and the tree may take on a grayish-green appearance. Without treatment, infested trees can die within 4 to 10 years.
This has a negative impact to not only the hemlock trees, but also the ecosystem.
They're a very important part of our forest ecosystems. So hemlock trees will stabilize dunes near the lake and prevent soil erosion. And hemlock trees also grow near streams and shade the streams and keep those stream temperatures down, which is important for fish populations.
Introduced to Michigan between 2015 and 2017, HWA has existed mainly in southwest Michigan, but has slowly moved northward.
We actually had hemlock woolly adelgid in 2021 over the winter in the Platte River campground. That was a pretty small pocket that was treated right away successfully, and we haven't seen it until this year in 2024.
So how is it spreading?
We noticed that here close to the park along M22, it's definitely spread along some of the main roads, and our thoughts are that that's probably via delivery trucks or people with high clearance vehicles, large RVs, semis. It's also spread by attaching to people's clothing, their gear.
And according to Acharya, the problem could become more common in future years due to warming weather trends.
We have warmer weather on this west coast of Michigan, and so those hemlock woolly adelgid are able to exist through these warmer winters and better growing seasons.
Now that the first week of spring is behind us, we thought it might be a good time to look back and see if Puxatawny Phil was correct when he forecast an early spring. To do that, let's turn to West Virginia meteorologist Brandon Stover.
Well, it's officially spring now. It started at 11:06 on Tuesday, March 19th, but doesn't actually feel like it. We are now 6 months removed from Groundhog Day, an important day for groundhogs and meteorologists alike. Taking a look back, Punxsutawney Phil, our nation's groundhog, didn't see a shadow, indicating an early spring. Our very own French Creek Freddy here in West Virginia also agreed, along with Buckeye Chuck in Ohio. Although you can certainly still have bouts of cold and some flakes into spring, this stretch as a whole has certainly been a warmer one here in the Ohio Valley. Already have plants blooming, and you can see why. Our temperatures for both February and March were well above average, and our snowfall only came in at 12.2. That is well below normal of 30 inches. And it's not just here. Cities like Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Charlotte, and Philadelphia, just to name a few, were also unusually warm after January. Snowfall in those areas between 1 to 2 feet below normal. So the moral of the story, it looks like many of the groundhogs were right. You can't judge them based on a day or two, but the whole picture does clearly show an early spring.
It's pollen season in many areas of the country, especially in the southeast, and you may think that's what's causing your spring allergies, and you may be right, but only to a point. Meteorologist Taylor Knost explains.
Spring allergy season is well underway in the southeast, including here in Columbia, South Carolina. This yellow pollen covering everything comes from pine trees. And as much of a nuisance as it is, most people aren't actually allergic to pine tree pollen. It's the invisible pollen from oak, willow, and birch trees that are the main culprit for most spring allergies. Now, here in South Carolina, tree pollen season tends to last until about Mother's Day. So we have another month and a half to suffer through. But later this year, from late summer through the fall, ragweed will become the enemy, causing allergy trouble until the first fall freeze.
And if you're looking for more great weather content, be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Thank you. We continue our countdown to the solar eclipse across America 2 weeks from yesterday. It's well known that eclipse viewing can be impacted by the weather, but did you know that our weather can be impacted by the eclipse? Emily Gracie spoke to a NOAA meteorologist about how the Weather Service is incorporating a new tool into their forecast on eclipse day to account for these changes.
We've seen a lot of data over the past couple of eclipses that show approximately 30 to 45 minutes before totality, you will start to experience a drop in temperature, and it will be noticeable by the time you get to totality because now you're basically at nighttime. There is no more incoming solar radiation. The temperatures will drop, and you will feel like you're late evening, even though it's going to be like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's going to be noticeably chilly, and you can get temperature drops. You know, from 2017, we saw the temperature drop between 4 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And actually, there have been some reports of drops as much as 16 degrees Fahrenheit from other total solar eclipses.
Something so specific as this one day where we don't have a whole lot of historical data. How do you forecast that change in temperature?
We developed a forecast tool in our what we call our graphical forecast editor, which is the computer software we use to create our forecasts. And we developed an algorithm from the 2017 eclipse that allows us to hopefully accurately forecast a temperature reduction that will occur, you know, plus 1 hour to minus 1 hour around totality for the areas that will be experiencing the total eclipse.
And so many things that are impacted by temperature as well, not just like that actual feels like, but like storms could be impacted, right? Like cloud development. This is like touching every little part of weather, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the most fascinating thing, at least for me personally, and a lot of my fellow meteorologists that I spoke to, that we observed in the 2017 eclipse was how quickly the cloud cover dissipated. I think we all kind of expected that there would be some reduction in cloud cover, but it went in some places from, you know, almost thunderstorm-like clouds to clear sky conditions during totality. Those clouds evaporated very quickly, which for some people saved them in the eclipse because they were there. It started to get cloudy. I was one of those people. I was in upstate South Carolina. I saw all the clouds building and I was a little nervous. But those clouds really eroded. We ended up with a perfect viewing of totality. And I think that was one of the most interesting observations we made during 2017 was just how amazing the cloud reduction was during the eclipse.
Now, to go more in depth on the eclipse, make sure you check out this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. You'll also hear about how the solar maximum we are in could make for some interesting viewing on April 8th. You can find Off the Radar anywhere you listen to podcasts. Now, let's check to see the weather in cities across the country today. We start with a look at Auburn University in Alabama. Thunderstorms in the morning will give way to steady rain in the afternoon with a high of about 67 degrees. And look here at our nation's capital. Fairly decent day in D.C. with partly cloudy skies and a high of nearly 60 degrees. And look here at Broadway in the Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. Showers early today, then partly cloudy skies this afternoon with some passing thunderstorms possible. The high today in Nashville is just below 70 degrees. And finally, here's the Philadelphia Museum of Arts, where Rocky famously ran up the steps in the movie Rocky II. There is currently a coastal flood advisory in effect for the city, and skies will be cloudy today with a high of about 52 degrees. And time now for a short break, but first we take flight over the lake in North Carolina.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We've got some snow across Minnesota and Wisconsin and rain across the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes. Now, as we continue on through the day today, this will all slowly start moving its way east. So tomorrow, looking pretty quiet for most of the Midwest, although it's going to be chilly, some 30s and 20s for high temperatures tomorrow. Jumping into your Thursday, more sunshine coming out, and all of us should be a little warmer as well by Thursday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Downright cool as you get up north. 27 in Amarillo, 34 back up into Oklahoma City. We're into the 40s out here at El Paso. Everybody else in the 50s and 60s. Some rain still going on in New Orleans, but the front will kind of clear things out. It'll get warm and it will get breezy all across most of Texas today. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Tuesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Starting to warm up through most of the west. A really comfortable 72 today out of Phoenix, back into the upper 50s in the Rose City. Scattered showers out of Portland, and 53 in Spokane. But still some cold air draped over the midsection of the country. And we've got the stationary front dropping down over the Four Corners region. Going to drop some snow showers in the high country outside of Salt Lake and Denver later today. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Trees of glass, that's how these look, and were sheathed in ice after a storm in Maine during the weekend. In Utah, Sunday, Grapple and Enoch, and Monday afternoon above Fairview, a funnel cloud appeared to form, but we're told it disappeared soon after. And Saturday night lights over Redding included these bolts of lightning with the hazy moon in the distance.
Listen to Off the Radar, new episodes every Tuesday.
We now want to share some of your weather photos submitted to our stations via Chime In. Sandra Todd took this beautiful shot of an isolated squall at sunset on Sunday near Boise, Idaho. And Colleen Bowman captured this rare moondog over Damascus, Virginia. The ring is an optical illusion caused by the moon's lights refracting off ice crystals in cirrus clouds. And check out this photo of the full warm moon early Monday morning. Washington's cherry blossoms are in the foreground with Arlington House and Arlington National Cemetery just below the moon. And don't forget, we want to share your weather content on air. Send it over to us via our social media platforms or uploading it via Chime In on your local station's app or website. We'll be right back.